right, whenever you're ready, I'm going to admit everyone.
Ready? You went mute. Val, you're mute.
The live stream is having a little bit of trouble, but I don't think it's with what I did, so we can just go ahead.
Somebody has their hand up. Is that maybe someone who couldn't get on?
I'm not sure. I can chat with them and see why their hand is up.
All right.
I think that was Christopher's iPad, actually. Oh, no, sorry, my bad. It's right there. I'm not going to try to do anything good.
All right. Pursuant to the Governor Baker's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, paragraph 18, and imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Wilmington Planning Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in the real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by going to this link. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and entering meeting ID 872-3317-5454, then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment. By following the steps previously noted, then press *9 on their telephone keypad or using the raise hand function on Zoom. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. Should I take a roll call first? Is that what you want, Val?
That would be great.
Randy Holland,
Present.
Terry Bolin,
Present.
Angelina Macalina.
Present.
Yep, that I see. So we don't have Sean?
No, Sean, Cheryl said that Sean couldn't make it tonight.
Okay. Okay, we had a 7:30 continued public hearing site plan review 21-01 stormwater management plan 21-01 for 687 Main Street. Map 39 parcel 11A. From attorney Mr. McKenna. Please be advised that I represent U-Haul Company of Eastern Massachusetts regarding the application for site plan review. My client requests to continue the hearing to the July 21st, 2021 Planning Board meeting and extend the action deadline for the above referenced project to July 30th, 2021. When is the next meeting? July
Next
what?
meeting, July 13th,
July 13th.
to avoid the holiday.
We'll put them in at 7:30.
That sounds good.
All right, I'll take a motion to continue the public hearing to July 13th at 7:30 and continue the action deadline to July 30th, 2021.
So
Did I say
moved.
that right?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Angela,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Okay. We have a 7:40 public hearing. Signed special permit 21-01 for 269 Main Street, map 43, parcel 4C. Michael Kaufman for Wilmington, Maine Realty. All right, what do we got?
Good evening, Ben Hartley for the applicant, Wilmington, Maine Realty LP. We were in here a month ago, 2 months ago for the reconfiguration of the Starbucks drive-through. We were asked to look at the signage, directional signage that we have out there. We're proposing to reuse what is out there currently, and it was determined that what was out there did not conform. So we are asking to reuse 2 drive-through signs with arrows that total 3.23 square feet each. One thank you / exit sign that is 2.6 square feet, and one People's Bank sign that is 2.25 square feet, and that's at a height of, it was 5'8". So we're here just to request that we be allowed to reuse those signs with the new reconfiguration of the drive-through.
Any comments from the town engineer, Val?
No, no comments. We didn't have any comments, and we prepared a draft for your consideration tonight.
Anybody in the board have any comments?
They're just the same signs, you're just moving them, or? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of them we may have to, we may, I think the People's drive-through, we may need to, because the arrow points the wrong way, we may need to, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Angela,
Yes.
Rondi,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Do you want to do the draft conditions? You want to go over the conditions?
Sure. So the draft that I prepared just kind of memorializes which signs, the sizes and the heights, to put that into here as the exceptions to the bylaw. And really, we had no, all of them were standard conditions, just approving those sizes, which are larger than what would be allowed and higher, just slightly higher than what would be allowed.
The applicant okay with these conditions? Ben?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
And anybody in the board have any questions?
No.
No.
Okay, I'll take a motion to accept the conditions as drafted.
So moved.
Second.
Angela,
Yes.
Rondi,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, you're all set, Ben.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Plan review 21-05 stormwater management permit, 21-05 and parking release special permit, 21-01 for 225 Andover Street. There's a request to continue. So they would like to continue it to July 13th, 2021. You want to set a time, Val?
How about 7:40?
7:40. Okay. And extend the action deadline to July 30th, 2021. Okay, so I'll take a motion to continue the public hearing to 7:40 on July 13th and extend the action deadline to July 30th, 2021.
So moved.
second,
Angela?
Yes. It's okay.
Rondi?
yes,
Terry?
Yes.
Chairman says yes. Okay. So we have a few minutes. The next one's not till 8. You want to do the Form A, Val?
Yes, that sounds good. I believe Bob Peterson might be here for the Form A. Is that?
He is.
I am.
Would you like me to pull it up on the screen, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please. I
Okay.
don't seem to have a copy.
There we go. So this was submitted last week, and our department reviewed it, engineering reviewed it. We had them make a couple changes, but essentially it is, and Bob can speak to this too, creating a parcel or a lot out of the railroad right-of-way from Eames Street to where it joins up with the main line. So this spur becomes a new lot 4 of 2.36 acres. And the owner of 90 Ames Street is purchasing that piece of rail right-of-way combined with lot 2, 90 Ames Street. So lot 4 is labeled as not a building lot and to be combined with lot 2. And I can zoom in on anything that you want me to zoom in on.
So it becomes just one lot?
That's right. And as it says in the note here up top, there's an easement over the actual tracks, and that remains.
The reason for the plan is that the spur itself doesn't currently exist as a separate parcel because it's part of the main rail line.
The tracks stay and the easement stays.
Yes, actually, the tracks are going to be refurbished. And Pan Am is also going to retain an easement over over lot 4 so they can continue to move freight from the main line onto the spur and back onto the main line. So, whether it's related to lot 4 or not. So.
So what's that mean, valid? Lot 4 gets the benefit of the area, but not the benefit of the use?
Yeah, basically, I mean, the area would be combined with lot, 90 Ames Street. But they would have to honor the existing easement.
So the new owner of Lot 4 will be buying Lot 4 from the railway, but subject to a freight easement to continue to move freight through the spur.
Okay.
So a non-exclusive right.
Okay. I think I've seen that before. It's interesting.
I've never seen a railway sell a spur, so.
Yeah.
till now, so.
Okay, I'll take a motion to accept the Form A as drafted, as submitted.
So moved.
Check you, Rondi.
I said so moved.
One of you say second, one say so moved.
Okay, second.
There
I
you
didn't
go.
hear somebody say so moved.
Yeah, all right, Angela,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Yes.
Rondi.
Yes,
All right, chairman says yes. All set.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Welcome. Were there minutes in the packet, Val? Cheryl? Did you guys get minutes?
No.
They're in there. Yeah,
Were they in there electronically? Is that what you're saying, Cheryl?
yeah.
Oh. Dang.
Unless they didn't know what I'm doing.
Well, I got hard copies, so I didn't get the minutes. I didn't look at the electronic because you gave me the nice hard copy stuff. Did someone read the minutes?
not me.
That's Sean's
Sorry.
job.
I think they got in. I'm not sure when they came in, but I didn't see them when I didn't have a chance to read them because they weren't there when I downloaded this stuff.
I started it. I saw a couple of things, but I didn't finish them.
Why don't we table the minutes till the next meeting then? Sorry, Cheryl.
We need to make a motion to do that.
Sure. Take a motion to table the minutes of March 2nd and March 16th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Angela, seem to be in a delay here.
Yes.
Terry,
Yeah.
Rondi.
Yes,
All right, chairman says yes too. Yep. 4 minutes. You want to take a Board of Appeals in 4 minutes there, Val?
If we take the easy one,
Which one is that?
is, well, what I think is the easy one, 12 Lucaya Circle.
Okay.
Let me pull that up for you.
Excuse me.
So this is a proposed addition. It's a 29 by 30 foot addition to the side of the house. They're proposing roof recharge for the addition to capture runoff. Let me move to the next page where you can kind of see. So this is the house right here. Ukiah Circle is up at the top. Their proposed addition is off the side. We have a roof infiltrator back here to take the runoff. So this is for over 15% impervious in the groundwater protection district. And they are at, let's see. They actually don't count the 26%. But they are doing a roof infiltrator for the runoff for the addition. It was actually reviewed already by the engineering division, and I don't believe they had any comments on it.
And I have no issue with it.
I'm sorry?
Then I have no issue with it.
Oh,
Okay. I don't have any questions. Anybody got any questions?
Not
No.
I.
No,
Okay. So you can tell the Board of Appeals looks good.
okay.
Okay, we have an 8 o'clock public hearing, site plan review 21-07 for 377 Ballardville Street, map R3, parcel 50B, Crown Castle for Sprint Spectrum, T-Mobile. Petitioner here.
Yes, good evening. My name is Tim Green. I'm here on behalf of T-Mobile Northeast, AKA for legally Sprint Spectrum LP. Sprint has had a facility at this site for 26 years. And over the last 26 years, it's upgraded. The antennas have gone up, the antennas have gone down, different antennas have been put on, different technologies have come and gone. And in this upgrade, Sprint Spectrum will be replacing 6 antennas, adding 9 antennas at the existing mount that they have at 150 feet. They'll be doing additional work at the base of the tower. There's no groundwork being done. There's already an existing frame for the equipment that is being removed and replaced. Passing structural analysis has been submitted, as well as documentation is appropriate FAA and FCC and Mass DPH regulations.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions?
No.
Okay, I assume, Val, we don't have anybody in the audience for this?
No, I don't see anyone with a hand raised.
Okay. I'll take a motion, close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Angela? Yes, okay. Angela says yes. Terry,
yes.
Rondi,
Yes.
Chairman says yes.
And
Okay,
I did prepare a draft decision for you tonight for this project.
okay.
That draft was included in the
Yeah, it looks pretty standard.
all standard. Yep.
Mr. Green, you don't have any questions about these conditions?
No, nothing really stood out. There was one on stormwater prevention though, but there's no work being done. There's no groundwork being done. So I assume that that'll just be a cursory, don't worry about it.
Makes sense, Val?
Yes. That's for erosion controls. Yeah. There's no groundwork, so you wouldn't do erosion controls.
Okay, I mean, it's not a problem to make a phone call and confirm with everybody. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it being in
Okay.
there.
I'll take a motion to accept the conditions as drafted.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Angela? Yes, okay. Rondi,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Chairman says yes. You're all set, Mr. Green.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. We have 6 minutes. What would you like to do?
Want to do the
You
other
wanna-
appeal?
Sure.
Okay. Alright.
This is for 31 Arlene Ave.
And just want to pull up the plan for you. So this is for a 20 by 36 garage to the right side of the existing home. It is proposed to be within the 20-foot side yard setback. So they're requesting a variance for this. Let's see. The application stated that the soil conditions and the wetland setback make constructing the garage on the other side of the house within the setback infeasible. So they're saying that they can't put it over on this side due to soils and wetland setbacks. Just for the board's benefit, the Conservation Commission does like to see a setback from the wetlands, which are shown here. But they typically require a 25-foot no structure setback. So this 50-foot line here. So the commission, would be looking at not putting a structure within 25 feet. So that wouldn't be a great reason for granting a variance. They didn't provide any additional information on soils to kind of back that up.
So,
That's what their claim is.
so they want a variance because they're not the 50 feet from the wetlands line?
They didn't say, yeah, they just said that putting the garage on the other side is infeasible because of the wetland setback. But the wetland setback isn't an issue for a structure over here.
Oh, okay. If they could put it there because they're beyond the 50 feet.
Right, and the commission has a policy of seeing 25 feet, so they could even put it closer than that. So
What's the reason for them showing a 50-foot buffer? Why do is there a reason why they would think that? Is there some other entity that's telling them that?
I'm not sure. They didn't talk to us about that. Their commission does like to see a 50-foot setback for commercial buildings, but not for residential.
So is there a reason it's on that other side of the house? Because of the house? I mean, does it fit better there or?
So I included some photos in the memo that I can pull up. It's, the driveway is on the side of the house that they're proposing the garage.
And so they don't have the right setback and that's why they need I mean, they still meet the 50-foot buffer on that side, right? They just don't meet the side setback.
Right. So they don't meet their zoning setback on the side that they're proposing.
Right. So they only have 10 feet and they need what?
20.
20, right?
Yeah.
So the hardship is that the soils isn't good enough on the other side. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, they listed in this right up.
But they didn't provide you any information that you could confirm or deny.
That's correct.
But the garage is on their paved driveway side, so that kind of makes sense, I guess. If they did put it on the other side, would they have to tear up that driveway and put a new one in? Because of
Well, they'd have to go across.
drainage?
No, they wouldn't. They're not in the groundwater protection district. So they wouldn't have to tear the other one up. I don't know why they would have to, why they would.
So, Terry, do your thing. Will you go on Google and look up this house, will you?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Is there a chimney on that side of the house? Is that why they need the garage on the other side?
Oh, I can't see the chimney. Chimney's on the left, so chimney's on the opposite side from where they're putting the garage.
Yeah, so that's probably why they're flipping it to the right side, right?
There is actually a little bump out right there on the drawing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The problem is they wrote down like soils for the hardship, which makes it tough to like compel us to do anything about that.
Well, I think they need to document they have a soils issue, right?
Right. I
mean,
think that's
if you're making a claim, you're gonna document it.
that's been pretty consistently our take when it comes to variances is like you got to document everything. It can't just be a wish, and it hasn't also been just fitting the house better. I mean it's
Right. Well, we don't see how close the other house, what's next to them, how close is that house to the property line?
I'm trying to find it. Hold on, I lost it.
Well, either way, I think that we would have to say documentation needs to be provided to verify that the soil conditions are not amendable to the addition being on the other side.
Mr. Chairman, this is the house on the left picture. And then the right picture is the driveway that goes back to where, that car is sitting, where the garage is proposed, and then the neighboring home next door.
Mr. Chairman, from the photograph on the right, it looks like the neighbor's house is about approximately 20 feet. I'm guessing, looks like it's about 40 feet across.
Yeah.
Yeah, the neighbor's house is further from the property line than their house is now, I'd say.
Okay. So either way, I still think then they need to document. We need the paperwork. I mean, that's just how the system works.
Yeah.
So
So additional information needs to be provided to document the hardship.
Yes, yes.
Document the hardship. Okay. Anything else to tell the Board of Appeals about that one?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we have 810, a public hearing site plan review, 21-08, 625 Main Street. Map body parcels 2A.
Good evening. My name is Paul Feldman. I'm an attorney in Boston, and I represent Matt Luther and his company ML Stone. Matt's on the line, and our land surveyor that's going to walk you through the site plan is Richard Mead. He's on as well. Just by way of introduction, the property is at 625 Main Street. It's the former location of the Salvation Army store that was there for several decades as I've looked at the history. Mr. Luther has a counter fabrication business where he fabricates, stone, quartz, and other materials into countertops. He would like to buy the building. He has the building under agreement with the current owner, subject to obtaining the permits that he needed, the entitlements that he needed to move his business in. The Zoning Board of Appeals has granted a special permit for his use within the industrial zone. They did that at their hearing earlier last month, in the middle of May. We obviously need site plan review from the planning board. The only thing I'll point out is that there's there are no changes proposed to the existing condition at all. There's no changes being proposed to the building. There's no changes physically to the parking lot. There's a cell tower also on this property, which is the subject of easement rights. When we went through the technical meeting with the departments and with Valerie, there were a whole bunch of specific suggestions that came up, and we've tried to accommodate every single one of them. And Richard has a plan that shows those items being accommodated. And with that, I'll turn it over to Richard. He could share a screen and show you the proposed, he could show you however you want to present it, Richard.
Okay. Let me get this. Okay, this is the first time I share the screen. So is the plan up?
Not yet.
Okay.
You got to sort of pick the screen that you want to share, the picture you want to share.
Okay, let me bring it.
Is this plan's in response to your comments, Val?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. So have you seen this plan, Val?
We got it today. I took a really quick look, but I didn't get time to look at it in detail. And the same for the engineer. He received it today. Didn't have time to look at it in detail. Took a quick look, but it looked like it was addressing a lot of the comments that were made at the CDTR meeting. I can try to let me pull it up from my email, and I can pull it up on the screen here. Just give me 1 second. So I'll do sheet 2 if that's okay. I don't know.
Sheet two, we can do the start. Yeah, we can start with 2.
All right. So here it comes. There it is. Zoom in a little bit for you.
Okay. So on sheet 2, I'll go through the items that we've addressed. What I did was I broke down the proposed site plan into sheets 2 and 3, just because there's so much detail. I didn't want to overlap and make it difficult to be able to follow. So basically, we're taking the existing parking lot and we're reconfiguring the size of the parking spaces to conforming 9x18s. And we also eliminated, there's 3 parallel parking spots opposite the front of the building along Main Street. We've eliminated those. And now we've increased the travel aisle to 26 feet. We added a conforming handicap parking spot in the front. And this is with the volume of or the amount of parking that we have, 1 handicap parking spot is required. So we've added that to the front. We also took the 3 spots that were in the front, the parallel spots, and then reconfigured again, the size of the parking spaces to make them conforming 9x18s in the back. And we're able to put those 3 spots into the back of the lot. Basically, the flow of traffic for customers will just be in the front of the building. The back of the building will be for the parking for, the employees, and also the area where they're going to be loading materials into the building. So that's basically what we're doing on sheet 2. On sheet 3, we added just because of detail, we put the details for we got an underground. Okay, I'll wait for the plan to come up. So we're going to be adding a drainage, even though we're not increasing any of the impervious that's already on the site, even though it's a large amount. We are going to be providing a stone interface along between us and the cell tower that will intercept the water from that back parking lot, which is the majority of the impervious on the site. And we're also showing the turning radiuses for a ladder truck for the town of Wilmington, showing that it would be able to come into the site on the north entrance and turn around the building and then come back out. And because of the reconfiguration of the front of the building, we're able to get that ladder truck then to turn across the building and then come back out the north entrance. Now, the reason that we're doing that instead of having the truck go straight through the south entrance that's existing now is the Mass DOT is planning on closing off that south entrance. So we wanted to make sure that we could configure our parking so that the ladder truck can still pass around the building, even when that spot, if it does get taken away, gets taken away from us, the entrance rather. And we are showing, as part of the departmental review, they wanted to see dumpsters as far away as possible from the new residential development that's going on at 365 Main. So we've put a fenced-in dumpster area, which is that 6x6. That would be what you'd normally have for a normal dumpster. And then there'll be a larger dumpster right next to it, between that and the cell tower. That will be all the waste stone products. And the owner will be able to go through about, typically how many times that has to be you know, cleaned out. And I believe he's also going to go through the process with the stone cutting, with the water usage. I believe it's a you know, well, he'll be able to get into more detail of it, but it's self-contained, it's recycled, and I believe the majority of any water that's lost is through evaporation as opposed to just normal water loss. So he can go through the volume of expected water that we would need per month, and also his deliveries and how many times that these dumpsters have to be emptied. And I mean, I can go through the points of the comments that we got from the departmental review, but those changes that we made pretty much cover every question or concern that they had with the configuration of the parcel and the usage of it, and whether we were going to get access around it.
There's a comment here about floor drains. Is that something you know they will or will not have in the building?
Yep. So we spoke with the building department, and I believe on the page 2, what we're going to do is there's one loading area. We're gonna block that with ballards that are 5 feet apart, so that vehicles cannot enter the building, and so that the transport of materials from you know, the transport vehicle into the building where all the product will be stored is going to be you know, through a forklift, and with that the floor drains will not be required.
All right, so no vehicles going into the building.
Correct.
Yeah, if I could just speak to that particular issue. At some point in the future, if the owner wants vehicles to be able to access the building, the owner understands it would have to put in a floor drain with an oil water separator, and would prepare plans to do that work and then seek to remove the ballards. But until a floor drain is placed inside the building, there will be no vehicles in the building. To give the board just a sense of how this property is going to be used, the company has you know, usually 3 or 4 employees that work in the shop, fabricating the counters. From the site, 2 vans are dispatched that do the installations with 2 employees in each van. They load up their jobs in the morning, they leave the site, and they don't come back during the day. If they're going to 2 or 3 locations in the course of the day, they take what they need, they leave, they go do their route, they do their installations, they don't come back and forth. So there's not a lot of vehicle trips that come from that. It's really not a heavy retail demand either. There's going to be a time in the future, we've sort of planned out that perhaps a portion of this building will be set up as a showroom, so people can look at the different materials that they could use for a counter. But it's not the type of thing where customers drive by and want to pick something up. It's usually done through an appointment or with a designer, someone that they're working on a project and they need to get to the property. So it's not a high traffic demand use. Dick mentioned the equipment. Matt is going to buy a state-of-the-art cutting machine. What we mean by state-of-the-art is it recycles all the water in a self-contained unit. You heard Dick make reference to, you know, the water loss is very minimal. According to the manufacturer, the expectation is in the course of a week, the piece of equipment is going to need 100 gallons in a week. It's not a big water use at all. It doesn't have any connection to the stormwater system. There's nothing that's going to go into the stormwater system or into the sewer system from the operations. It's only going to be sanitary sewer. One of the questions was, the open space requirement, the impervious, and that's what I documented with the building department. This building goes back to a building permit that was issued in 1969. The permit, I have a copy of it, says it's for basically a building that's a square building, 100 feet by 100 feet, which is virtually exactly what they built. It's what's described in the 1969 building permit and what's on the ground is the same exact thing. And back at the time, the bylaw in effect was a bylaw published in 1955. And so it was completely conforming with the zoning requirements as set forth in the 1955 bylaw. The next bylaw change, I think, was somewhere around 79, next major rewrite. And as I said, this building permit was issued in 1969. So it's a law, to the extent there are some dimensional requirements that aren't met, it's a lawfully pre-existing non-conforming use, and there's absolutely no changes being proposed. The big issue from a site circulation point of view were the 3 parallel parking spaces that currently exist along Main Street. The departments really want to see us try to get rid of those spaces and still provide enough spaces on site. And basically that means we have to restripe the lot in accordance with the proposed site plan. That will give us the number of spaces, get rid of those parallel spaces, and give you all the turning movements that would be required. We can answer any, I think we're prepared to answer virtually any question you guys have. I certainly hope we are. Here's the challenge, and I appreciate that we only got this plan into Val today. We only had the department technical meeting a week ago, and we had Memorial Day in between. We did this as quickly as we could to get it in advance. The challenge that we have is we would really hope that the planning board can come to a decision tonight, even though I know Valerie hasn't prepared a written decision because she didn't have a chance to. But if you could vote, then the decision could be prepared in the next few days. The issue is we have a closing deadline with our buyer of June 30th. We got to get the appeal period to run. So that's 20 days. So we sort of need to have a decision filed in the town clerk's office by June 10th if we're going to meet that deadline. The seller did give us an extension to June 30th. It was May 31st, but when he saw the progress made at the zoning board for the special permit, he granted us another month without being happy about it because he's been trying to get out from under this for a while. And frankly, my client needs to relocate his business. And so, if this gets delayed 5 or 6 weeks, it's really creating a fair amount of hardship for both the current owner of the property who's trying to sell and for my client who's trying to relocate his business. So I know we're probably making a request that's outside the normal process in the sense that you're just getting this revised site plan today, and it's probably something that you don't consider in the same night that you receive it. But it's so straightforward in terms of there's no physical changes being made to the site except for those things that we've been asked to do. There's nothing being changed by the applicant. That we were hoping that you could walk through this and find your way to be able to vote. It's not that hard to identify the conditions if you want to identify them, and then something you get written up and filed with the town clerk, and over the next 10 days, there wouldn't be a rush. But it's important to the applicant and to the current owner that we try to complete this process tonight if we can. And I appreciate that may be a big ask, but I think the planning board's for this type of plan under these circumstances, hopefully you'll find a way to be able to do that.
So nothing's going to be stored outside, right? So
Correct. No outside storage.
stored. That was there a showroom kind of thing? If I come in and want to look at some.
It's contemplated in the way we've set out the parking. If you take a look at the parking requirement chart, you're going to see we sort of theoretically planned for a third of the building, 3,333 square feet, to be considered retail use, so it can be set up as a showroom in the future. I think that's Matt's intent, but it's going to take a little while for him to get the equipment in there, get up and operating, and then he'll set a showroom up. But as I mentioned in my opening comments, a lot of times when people go to select their slab, because that's a very common thing, people will go choose the piece of quartz from which a counter is going to be made, or a piece of stone. They usually go to some of the large distributors that are around that have, hundreds of things to choose from. And then when it's selected, it gets transported and shipped to a fabricator like Matt. So there's going to be some limited inventory that can be displayed as a showroom, but it's not going to. There's only so much you could do in a facility like this, and it's not intended to be the only place that a customer is going to be able to choose their stone from.
Okay. So Val, they went to the Board of Appeals and got a special permit for what?
For the use,
For the use itself.
yes.
Yeah, in a general industrial zone, which is where the property is located, Mr. Chairman, the bylaw provides that if you want to consider his use a manufacturing use or a fabrication use, you need it's specially permitted. You need to get a special permit for that use.
Okay.
And we did that. I will tell you that the zoning board, the planning board's recommendation to the zoning board was, look, we need this to go through site plan review, so we're reserving. The zoning board said, well, our usual protocol is to defer until we hear a specific recommendation one way or another from the planning board. But again, because of the deadlines we were under, I prevailed on the zoning board to try to consider the substance of our request at their last meeting, and that we would be open to a condition in our special permit that our special permit is subject to site plan review. And that's what the zoning board did. They granted the special permit. They specifically articulated a condition that it's subject to site plan review. I think that was to, you guys have from what I can see as an outsider, I do a lot of this land use work, but understanding how Wilmington works, you guys have a good communication between your boards. And I think the ZBA didn't want to ignore the planning board's comment that it needs to do site plan review. And so it specifically set out that condition.
It appears they've answered all of Paul's comments, Val. How do you feel
And
about
we
it?
also, and we also got a letter from Valerie.
Yeah,
Some of which were the similar comments, but some of them are a little bit different.
so we're good on ADA and AAB requirements for parking, right? The dumpsters,
Yeah.
they took care of. The drive aisle in front of the building should be widened to 22 feet. That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they took care of the comments. I know Paul didn't get a chance to look at it closely, but his first reaction was that it looked like they were addressing the comments. I think it would just be a matter of formulating some conditions for an approval. Things like no outdoor storage, emptying the dumpsters during business hours, those types of things, especially since it's gonna be.
And no interior vehicles without a drain.
Yep.
That's another condition we would expect. We understand that.
What about your first comment, Val? The site is located in the groundwater protection district.
Yes,
You okay with calcs and impervious?
let's see, they gave us the existing and proposed on this revised plan. So they're going from 64.55% to 64.16%. They would need to coordinate with the building department to see if they would need a special permit for that.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same, so that's okay.
Yeah, it's the same. I think we tried to create a little landscaped area in the back there to take out a little bit of impervious, just to make an effort.
So-
But we're not doing anything very meaningful.
Right, so just out of my curiosity, is the antenna tower part of the property or not?
The antenna tower is part of the property. It's part of the lot that it's the fee to the antenna tower is owned by the seller, and it's going to be owned by us if we can complete a sale. However, a permanent easement was purchased by the cell tower operator. So as a result of that permanent easement, it's not a lease. There are going to be no payments to my client, although the permanent easement does provide for a contribution to real estate taxes. We're buying subject to that easement, and we're just not going to we don't have a business relationship with the cell tower operator. It's Spectrum. It's the same people that were at 377 Ballavale that you just heard earlier. And they have easement rights now, and they're permanent, and that's its status.
Okay. Anybody in the board have any questions?
I had one question about the cutting machine or whatever. Is there any sort of, I guess two questions about it. Is there any sort of dust collection need, or is the water taking care of all of that?
Yeah, so what happens is it doesn't produce a lot of dust because it's a wet cutting system, and that's obviously a big advantage. But what it does is it captures all the water, and mixed in with the water is going to be a little bit of sediment from the materials that you're cutting, and the dust isn't in the air; it's in the water. It's somewhere. And the way this machine works, I mean, it is pretty amazing. I've gotten cutouts so I could understand it before I came to the board. The way it works is the water gets collected, the suspension, the particles that are suspended precipitate out of the water and become like it gets automatically bagged into a bag. And when the bag fills up, it's just like the material. It's a solid, relatively heavy material. It gets disposed of, and you heard Dick mention two different dumpsters. One is a standard solid waste dumpster, but the other is a special dumpster for stone waste and quartz waste, because that's material can get recycled. You just don't dump that in a landfill. It's pretty wasteful. So Matt has a vendor that specializes in maintaining that dumpster and taking care of it, once or twice a week. So there's no dust, and there's actually a very good mechanism to in the recycling of the water to quote unquote purify the water from the particles that got in it, and then the residue is automatically bagged and disposed of it just like the stone.
Okay. What about the noise of the operation? Is there anything that's going to be coming out of the building? I doubt that there's any sort of sounds like there's an exhaust fan. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. The water system is inside the building. The water recycling system is inside.
Yes, the entire, it's a piece of equipment. It's all physically set up inside the building. If the garage door is open because the forklift is bringing in a slab and the cutting machine is going at that moment, I'm sure you're going to be able to, if you're standing outside the garage door, you're going to be able to hear it. But Matt, you could speak to, you work in the shop, you know how noisy it is. Doesn't sound like it's a very noisy operation, but why don't you speak to it?
No, the noise is very minimal. I mean, like you said, the doors will always be closed. When the machine's running, it's a negligible noise of any traditional machine inside of a shop. And on top of that, the machine only runs probably 3-4 hours a day because it's a lot of loading and unloading. But in general, it definitely does not make as much noise as a car driving by. That would make more noise. So there wouldn't be a noise issue at all.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I mean, it's not necessarily up to us. I like to bring it up. I mean, there is, as has already been pointed out, a residential housing going right next to it in the plan right now. If honestly, if it creates something objectionable, they can go to like either the EPA or whatever it is at the state level and actually
there's a
so
there's a state regulation, there's a DEP noise reg that you can't exceed
that's
certain
yeah.
decibels at the property line over ambient. You're 100% right about that, Mr. Boland. And we don't have any, considering that there's a residential use right next to the general industrial zone. Remember, this is in the general industrial zone, so the residents have to appreciate there's going to be most likely a commercial business here. This is a very benign commercial business. It's going to be a good neighbor for residences, as it turns out.
Okay. Anybody else got anything? I assume there's nobody in the audience there, Val?
I don't see any raised hands. If you are in the meeting and you would like to comment or ask a question, please use the raise your hand function. It's *9 on the telephone keypad.
I just have one question related to the applicant's request for us to approve this prior to our next meeting. Since we don't have a draft decision, is there a way that we can accommodate this, Val?
Well, we can close the public hearing, start the appeal process.
No, unfortunately, that won't start the appeals process.
Oh.
So let me just jump in 1 second. For site plan review, we don't have an appeal period. So that could help. It's just site plan review. So it wouldn't have an appeal period for that process. So you could close the hearing tonight. We could prepare a draft for the next time. It's really up to the board what they'd like to do tonight.
Yeah, I guess what I would request is if you could articulate your conditions, there's absolutely nothing wrong with closing the hearing, voting to approve the site plan subject to a list of conditions, and then a decision will be prepared and filed with the town clerk. I know that is not your usual preference, but it's a straightforward site plan, and we're in a jam.
I understand your condition you're in, but that's really not a good precedent for us. We've kind of had a pretty hard line about doing that with others. When we've been pretty consistent. You've been very forward up front and very articulate about what your position is, but others have not been so much. So we appreciate that part of it, but it'd be a very difficult thing for us to do and kind of set. I'm all for closing the public hearing and we can kind of move ahead. But again, it seems like he answered all the questions, but I don't think we really can come up with conditions without Val and the engineering department kind of having a good overlook. I don't really see any way around that.
It's your call. I made my pitch. So if you don't see a way around it, there's nothing more that I'm going to say that's going to.
All right, well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your approach. Is everybody good? We'll close the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
So moved. Second.
A second. All right, Angela? That's a yes. I see. I heard that yes. Terry?
Yes.
Rondi?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
it'll be up on the July 13th agenda. Is that how it's going to work now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
She'll draft up the conditions. She'll make sure you see them ahead of time.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what do we got now? We got 820, let's see, site plan review 21-09, stormwater management permit 21-07, 201 Lowell Street. 21-10 and stormwater management permit 21-08, 201 Lowell Street. So what do we got?
Oh, is Valerie introducing us or am I just going?
Go ahead. Who are you?
All right. Hi, I'm Dave Fenstermacher from VHB. And I think I'll have a presentation here for you folks too. So I'll bring that up on the screen and just confirm that everybody can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm here tonight to talk about 201 Lowell Street, the Textron site. And just to give a little update, we submitted back in May, NOI back in May 12th, received a few of the comment letters, had a really productive follow-up call with the DPW. Don't really need to get into, the fine detail of these, but I just wanted to kind of highlight overall the project team has really appreciated the feedback that we received from, to date. We feel we're working collaboratively to address any concerns that have been noted, and we understand this is a really important project. So we'll continue to work with staff and the departments through the process. What we're presenting tonight is what was included in the original package with the intent of us incorporating the changes that we're making now based on the feedback already received, as well as any additional feedback that we'll receive from you all tonight. And then, as I stated, this is the Textron site. There's two applications. Textron will be one, and then the National Development Team for the other. I'm representing VHB, and I think the architect might be on as well if there are any questions. And just to provide some context, a reminder for everybody, this is the existing Textron site located at 201 Lowell Street, frontage along both Lowell Street and Main Street, bisected by the Maple Meadow Brook. Site's approximately 61 acres. The building size there is existing around 724,000 square feet. It's located in the general industrial district where business professional office, research and development, which are the existing uses that are going to remain for Textron, and warehouses are allowed by use. And I know we're talking about 61 acres, but just to we'll fine tune that a little bit. We're looking at probably 34 acres of that from what's developed, where the rest is this undeveloped piece of the site. In terms of natural resources, I know this site plan looks a little busy, but I just want to highlight, we are within the groundwater protection district, zone 2, so we're subject to the special permit. The remainder of the site falls outside mostly of the 100-foot wetland buffer, the 200-foot riverfront, and the 100-year floodplain. I'll get into a little more detail later, but our design was really focused on minimizing impact in those areas, as well as restoring existing developed areas. In terms of access to the site, there's 5 curb cuts. We have 3 along Lowell Street, that are on the site, and there's a shared access on Lowell Street as well as the existing access on Main Street. And you can actually get to the site from Woburn Street through the Howland property. And as we mentioned, there are 2 site plans in front of you tonight. To make this site work, we broke it out into 2 parcels. Parcel A will be the Textron site. Parcel B will be the warehouse. Though these are going to get their own permits, we really integrated the design, traffic and stormwater and utilities, but at the same time meeting the setback and dimensional requirements on a per lot basis. So we'll walk through that, but I think it's really key to understand that we're approaching this as an integrated design. Just looking at the Textron first, the existing building consists of 6 buildings. 5 of the buildings are going to be demolished, with building 9 remaining to be continued to be operated by Textron. Just an idea of what the finished plan, and this is a little easier to read than the black and white plans. So hopefully this gives some better context where, we're at the existing building at 724,000 square feet. The Textron building to remain is around 209,600 square feet. The proposed warehouse is around 305,000 square feet. So the total new buildings between the 2 are 514,933 feet. So there's actually a net reduction, the amount of square footage on site, by 209,405 feet. Just to talk about Textron a little bit, designed to meet the parking, open space, and dimensional setbacks. Parking required about 445 spaces. We're providing 455. There's some security fencing in this back area too, per the existing uses that are out there. In terms of access, we're closing the top curb cut here, utilizing the existing here. So basically they're gonna, the primary truck access will still come off Main Street as it does today. And then there'll be an opportunity to help with the distribution of the trips here, where for folks to come in off Lowell Street, to utilize that Woburn Street exit. And I guess at the same time, the guests and employees can also use the Main Street access. And we did take a look at all these movements for truck turns, and as well as the aerial fire truck. And we'll be including those figures in our next submittal. In terms of the warehouse, again, meeting this, designing this to meet all the parking, open space, and dimensional setbacks, standalone, as well as the stormwater improvements, landscaping. In terms of parking, based on typical users that we're seeing for these type of warehouses, we're seeing demands that are much lower than what's typically required by the local requirements. So as such, we're showing, sufficient parking for the users, and then providing additional paved areas that can be utilized for trailer storage or converted to parking as needed. But we wanted to make sure that we're meeting that parking requirement on site. In terms of access to the warehouse, I think part of the key to this site is going to be, having the standalone entrance for the 2 different users. So signage is going to be key over here. But what we're looking to do is the trucks for the warehouse will use the center entrance, and the employees and guests can use the existing access here, the shared access. And also at the same time, there is an opportunity, again, to use Main Street and the Howland property to really distribute these uses, the trips. And we are shifting this intersection up a little bit. We're gaining another 190 feet of separation from the intersection and from that existing curb cut. And I think that's really going to help provide some nice separation between the curb cuts that are remaining. And I know this one gets a little busy. This was one of the key components of our discussions with DPW, but the general premise of this is to demonstrate that there are available utilities on Lowell Street and Main Street to accommodate both buildings having standalone connections. There'll be some new connections to Lowell Street that'll be required, but based on the prior use, we feel there's ample infrastructure to support both the uses, and we'll be working with the third-party reviewers from water and sewer standpoint on capacity to make sure that that those will work. And I just wanted to note there are some utilities that traverse the site via easements from the south from the existing Howland properties. So we're going to be accommodating those connections with the drainage. There's a piece that related to the sewer that we're continuing to work with the DPW on, just to make sure we have that cleared away and that we're not impacting any of the existing utilities that are coming on to the site now.
Does the existing pump station only represent the property owners? Textron and you? No one else is tied into the pump station is what I'm asking.
That's what we're trying to confirm. There's some conflicting information we had that Howland is going out to Lowell Street, but there could be coming to the pump station. So it's the Textron site and potentially the Howland property for the pump station. But our intent for the new building would be to go out to the road and utilize the new pump station in Lowell Street for the new warehouse. And just as we move into stormwater, like I said, we're looking at it on a parcel by parcel basis, but really taking a holistic view at it. As I mentioned, there are some existing wetland resources on site, the bordering vegetated wetlands. There's some limited work within the 100-foot buffer, but it's really limited to restoration efforts, water quality improvements, and removal of impervious. There is some floodplain, but the work is limited to, again, just really restoring, adding some green space, no changing in grades to the existing floodplain. In the riverfront area, I think there's a little sliver where we're working, again, not adding any new structures in that area. And from stormwater management goals, protect those natural resources, the importance of erosion and sediment control, and then attenuating the peak rates of runoff and enhancing water quality, really meeting those town of Wilmington standards, which we're working with Paul on now. And I think we'll really be able to enhance the submittal that we had previously and really incorporate some of those changes and get to those levels that Paul's looking for. And just to sort of give you an overview of how we're doing that, number of LIDs on site, the gravel wetlands in 2 areas. We're implementing some of the Filterra systems, which are sort of the little wetlands in a box, implementing some rain gardens. And I think, one of the big pieces here too is that you can see all these new green areas that we're putting in the parking lot and closing of these this parking lot and this entrance here. We're over 1.6 acres of reduction in impervious area. So all those pieces together are really tying into enhancing the stormwater that's out there now. And this sort of just gives a shot of, if you weren't sure what those Filterra systems are, they're the kind that collect, and there's a little grate under the curb. This is what the gravel wetland will look like. And then, looking at some of those rain gardens to accommodate some of the stormwater that's not there today. And I think just to go back real quick, I think one of the key components of this is where we're showing all these gravel wetlands and rain gardens are all areas that are impervious now. So we're really converting, getting kind of a double dip of getting rid of impervious, but also converting that area to stormwater management. And I think Evan Miller's on, our landscape architect. He'll just take a minute to run through sort of his approach to the landscaping plan.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you guys listening to us tonight. Just from a landscaping standpoint, as Dave mentioned, as part of that reduction in impervious, we were trying to incorporate a lot of new islands throughout the existing parking lots, and also increase the tree coverage within there to help reduce the heat island effect. So primarily along the back portion of the property and the parking areas along in there is where we're starting to do that, focusing in the gravel wetland areas with a wetland mix to help diversify the plant material within there, reinforcing some of the edges with some additional plant material where the warehouse is and as you enter into the property. And really, this was really an exercise in tree protection along the frontage. So examining what the mature growth of trees that were already existing out there, and minimizing as much as possible any development that went out there, and utilizing the existing buffer that currently exists along the roadway. Trying to pull from the plant material that was along the frontage and bring that back into the rear of the property. while also introducing some new species so as not to have a full monoculture of only one type of plant was really the directive that we tried to move forward with from a landscaping standpoint.
Great. Thanks, Evan. And I think, one of the key components of the site is definitely the traffic. So we have our traffic engineer, Vinod's on. So Vinod, if you want to just take everyone through a little overview and then talk about next steps.
Sure. Thank you, Dave. Hello, everyone. My name is Vinod Kalikiri. I'm a senior traffic engineer with VHB. Included in the submittal, planning board submittal was sort of a big picture overview of the traffic associated with this development, both under the current conditions as well as in the future conditions with the changes that Dave described to the site. We did have a very productive meeting with town staff since the submittal earlier in May, and currently a larger traffic effort is underway, and we are hoping to have a larger presentation on traffic at a future meeting. But what I wanted to do today is over the next few slides, going to give you a brief overview of where we are with our traffic review. Again, recognizing that there's more to come. The previous slide shows the site context and obviously location in relation to the major highways and roadway systems in the area. 93 obviously to the east, providing majority of the site access. As Dave pointed out, the site currently has 5 major access points, and then it additionally can get to the site from Woburn Street as well through the adjacent property. One of those access points is shared with the Holland site, the easterly point on the dot on that site. If you go to the next slide, Dave. So the change, as Dave pointed out, we are getting rid of one of the curb cuts at the westerly end of the property that you see at the top right there. And then primary access for Textron would be via the 2 blue dots, and the primary access for the warehouse development would be via the 2 purple dots. However, Textron will have access to pretty much all of the curb cuts, all access points, except for that middle dot on Lowell Street. That curb cut primarily serves the loading docks for the warehouse building. But other than that, Textron would have access to all curb cuts, and employees and visitors for the new warehouse building would also have access to, for example, the Main Street curb cut, as well as access to Holland, to the adjacent Holland property. So the site access is being designed to make sure that we are providing enough ways to disperse the traffic and not concentrate all of the traffic to a specific location. And also, as Dave mentioned, we are pushing the truck access farther away from the signal of Woburn Street at Lowell Street to make sure that there's adequate distance between the intersection and the curb cut. I just included this graphic here to kind of give you some of the background. Obviously, this is an intersection upgrade that's currently in design by the town. It's currently being reviewed by Mass DOT. Our site access, the first shared curb cut, is actually outside of the limits of this graphic. This plan comes out of the signal design plan from the consultant for the town. But we wanted to make sure that we showed this to you. We are looking at this very closely in the context of our project and trying to understand how our traffic numbers would affect the operations of this intersection and how the analysis works. So if you go to the next slide, Dave. Just a quick recap of the highlights. Again, more of the detail you'll see in the full study that'll be filed soon. But the total building area is being reduced by almost 30% or 29% reduction in square footage. Total parking is reduced by about 30% on the site. And in addition, about 228 spaces, even though we are designing for them, are not going to be used on day one for parking employee vehicles. They can be used, they're essentially calling them as land banked, and could be used for trailer parking if needed. And not only are we reducing the square footage and the amount of parking, the intensity of usage compared to manufacturing use like Textron, the future use with the warehouse is actually a less intense use in terms of in terms of trip generation, traffic flow, traffic volumes. As you heard, we are getting rid of one of the curb cuts on Lowell Street. So the curb cut management, access management is one of the features that we're looking at. And when you compare the project to fully occupied manufacturing use, or if the buildings were to be subleased or tenanted to other users, compared to that, the future conditions on the site that you see on the site plans represent a significant reduction in traffic flow, as much as 50% reduction in the daily traffic, and as much as 65%, more than 2/3 of reduction in peak hour traffic. And recognizing that the site hasn't been occupied fully or for a long time, we are looking at the current conditions as part of our traffic analysis, but we did provide in the memo a comparison to saying what happens if the site were to be reoccupied or re-tenanted with the comparable use as manufacturing versus what we are proposing as part of our current design. The detailed study is currently underway. We will be focusing quite a bit on the intersection of Woburn Street and Lowell Street, given that intersection is currently under design, and a lot of thought and effort has gone into that design until now. And our traffic study, the staff has indicated that the traffic study will undergo technical peer review by a third-party consultant who will be hired by the town. So more details to come on traffic, but I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes to give you an overview of where we are with our analysis at this point. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I think hopefully that gave everyone a general overview of the site and where we're at now. And just want to open it up to questions. Like I said, we're in communication with Valerie and her staff, as well as DPW, and going to be working with the third-party reviewers to, enhance the plans that we have now and to provide more detail. But wanted to take this time to get some feedback and answer some questions.
As I look at this plan, I got parking to the left and parking to the right. So it's the parking to the left for Textron and parking to the right.
Yeah,
you were good where you were.
I know it was a little faded back, but all right, this one might be easier.
All right, yeah.
So the intent, this would be the main parking field for the warehouse.
For the warehouse, okay.
Yeah, and then the Textron parking would be here. There's a little bit of shared parking here, but the Textron numbers were all met. So you can see the little dash line here, but that would be the Textron parking, and this would be the warehouse parking.
Do you know anything about the Textron, like how many employees or what they have planned for that building?
Yeah, based on the numbers that we've provided, and we've showed them the calculations for the requirements and what they're using today. And my understanding that this is adequate parking for their use.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the parking. I'm worried about the traffic flow going from that building out to the Howland property. And, so I would assume that the warehouse parking employees will go right out to Lowell Street.
Yeah, they have access to this this roadway behind to bring them out to Lowell Street.
Yeah, so but where that is right now, it just doesn't work so well at peak time. You kind of block off the coming out from the adjoining property across the street, so kind of backs up pretty good. Maybe that's going to be taken into account when we overdo the intersection, but
okay. And I think that'll be part of Vinod's scope. He'll be looking at those intersections.
So what about this warehouse? Explain to me what we got here. How many trucks? What kind of trucks? We got some big trailers coming in. What do we got?
There's no specific user right now. We're designing all of our turns in and out for the WB67, which is the bigger truck. But I think, Vinod, you could probably explain it better, but we'll probably use some industry standards for the number of trucks that are going to come in and out for typical warehouse use. But at this point, we don't have an end user for specific numbers.
So yeah, well, what I can say, again, recognizing that a tenant has not been identified, again, standard traffic engineering practices call for the use of, as you might have heard, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is a national standard that provides guidance on trip generation for different types of users and types of vehicles that you could expect. And again, there's going to be a range of numbers that we would look at, and the traffic study would include include those estimates.
Understood. There'll be a peer review when the time comes.
Yep.
I guess what I was leading more up to is you said something about that area being for storage of trucks. I guess I'd be more concerned about, you know, what kind of trucks, how many trucks am I going to have stored there? What's it going to look like? Maybe I want some more trees to block that view from Lowell Street, that kind of thing. That's what I'm
Okay.
thinking about along
Yep.
those lines. You know, I don't think we're overly want to see a Johnsbury truck pit here, so.
Right.
And, you know, as you may or may not know, that we have a high quality architect on our board, so we're going to want to see what this building's going to look like, so.
Okay, I'll work with the applicant on that. I think, yeah, we probably just had the
Yep.
generic
Sure.
elevations that were provided.
This was just to give an overview, I understand.
Yeah.
Same thing, we're gonna have some residential property coming in nearby here, so we probably gonna want to know about rooftop ventilation, that kind of stuff, whether you're gonna be able to see it, what kind of noise, what do we got? So the Textron building that's staying, is it getting refurbished? Is it getting dressed up? What's, do you know, what's up with that?
I believe for the most part, it's remaining. And then where there's demoing the buildings. So this will be a new facade here. So they'll have the newer facade on the back end.
Okay. Terry, you want to ask anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the traffic bit on Lowell Street and just thinking about how that's all gonna work, right? I guess maybe Valerie, you have some insight here as to how, like, we have the plan going on at Lowell and Woburn right now, and you know that's obviously off this plan, but I don't know if you know what's the plan for like striping all the way down Wall Street, because here's what I'm seeing as being a problem is you know 18 wheelers or whatever trying to take a left into that driveway is one issue, you know, coming from 93. Another issue, you know, that being like is it a 45 mile an hour road, right? I mean, it's visibility is great and everything, but you know, but still that road's always and as things come back together, I imagine that road will start backing up again as it always did. But okay, so there's the left turn issue. There's also I'm a little concerned, I guess, about the multiple entrances. We're gonna want to make sure that like signage is really good for that. I don't want people coasting along in the right turn lane, going 15, trying to figure out which one they're supposed to go in. You know, driving in doing U-turns in the truck parking one, you know, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
But I mean, Valerie, do we have any plans for striping down Lowell Street right now that this would change?
No, the project that we're working on for the intersection doesn't go all the way through the property's frontage, so we would want them to look at that within the traffic assessment.
And then again, well, you kind of answered the question. We don't really have a user on the warehouse yet. There is a cut between the truck parking lot and the Textron parking lot that I see there.
Yeah, that might not stay. We have it gated, but that's more for emergency access.
Okay. Okay.
We don't want to have a thoroughfare there, but just important to get the emergency vehicle all the way around the building.
Yeah. And then on the parking, I may need you to just explain it again. So there was a calc for like 400 something spaces.
Yeah.
And 200 are going to be created.
Correct.
Something
around 225. Yeah.
But there's provisions for the rest.
Yeah, I can throw that in the next submittal too. But if you stripe out, you know, these areas, it shows where the additional parking could go if needed.
So the additional parking fits within what we're seeing right here.
Correct. Yeah, there's no, when I say land bank, I shouldn't say land bank because I make it sound like it's in green space. It's in the area that we're proposing as paved.
Okay, understood.
And Terry, one of the comments that we made was that, per the building inspector and past practice, the required number of parking spaces would need to be actually striped out and provided physically, or the other option would be to apply for a special permit to reduce the number of parking spaces.
Right.
Yeah, well, we don't want no, let me rephrase that. We don't want any double dipping and calling a parking space where one of the trailer trucks is parking. It's not a space, right?
And then I guess the last thing that we'll talk about today is with all the cuts on the other side of Lowell Street, are we going to look at trying to get them aligned in the safest way possible? I'm not sure if it's better to have them facing each other or whether there's what the optimal separation is, or
If you're talking whether they're teed up or offset.
yeah, or whether or not we should actually continue to use that one at the very top of the screen and scrap the one that's across from that's not the daycare. I think it's across from the daycare that is the first one that you're proposing to use.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of balance that goes into the selection of these. So that's the one that we were able to eliminate all the impervious within the buffer zone. So that's why that one was more like an ideal one.
Yeah.
And being able to maintain a lot of the natural mature buffer that's out there. But again, we'll take a look at that because that was also brought up on one of our calls about the locations of the curb cut. So definitely something to look into.
We'll also have traffic review that looks at that too, right?
Correct. All right, that'll be part of TEC's review. Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing that hasn't been mentioned so far, there's a development in construction right now at 168 Lowell Street, which is across from the middle curb cut on Lowell Street. So that driveway,
Is that this location?
Exactly. Yep. So that's in construction now. So there's a driveway that's been approved for that development.
Okay.
So you want to look at that too.
Is that, Valerie, is that something you could share with us, the site plan?
Yep, I can. Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Mike already touched on the rooftop equipment situation that they're just going to have to pay attention to it is all.
Yep.
It's like straight uphill from that, so it's not going to be an afterthought at all. So, but you already knew that. So.
Okay. Randy, you got anything?
No, I'm sorry. I'm only hearing about 50% of everything that's been discussed.
That's all right. Next time we'll be in
very well in Arizona. Thank you.
We'll have the renderings next time, right?
We'll be in town hall next time.
Oh yeah, there you go.
How about you, Angela? You good? Somewhere she's nodding. Okay. Well, obviously we're going to continue. So are you going to come back on the 13th or what's the deal?
That's the plan. I talked to Valerie about, making sure that we get something that's complete and comprehensive, but also getting at a time where it would allow for the peer review and not have to rush people through the review. So our intent is to get something in a few weeks and then present at the July 13th hearing.
Okay. What do we got for time, Val?
Did you want to see if there's any questions in the audience? I think there's maybe some folks on.
Oh, sure.
So let me just stop the sharing here.
Before we do that, I just have one question on a plan. Is the corner of that warehouse, the new corner of the warehouse that's closest to Lowell Street, how much closer is that than the existing closest building?
You mean down in this area here?
Stop sharing, so I can't see it.
Oh, sorry. So where that employee lot was, where the
Yeah. So there's kind of there's a lot that's kind of the same shape. Before the current.
We're pretty much lined up with the existing edge of building in both ways, along Lowell Street and from Howland. So if you looked out there now, you'd give a good idea of where the building would sit.
All right, thanks.
And if there are any folks on the meeting who have any questions or comments, if you could use the raise hand function, or I believe it's a *9 on your telephone keypad if you're on the phone. Mr. Chairman, there are no comments or questions from the audience, and we have a time slot open at 7:45 if that works.
7:45 it shall be. So take a motion to continue the public hearing to 7:45 on July 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Angela.
Thumbs up.
Terry.
Yes.
Rondi.
Yes.
All right, chairman says yes. Okay, we'll see you then.
Yeah, I really appreciate the feedback tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's a good thing the lawyer's not on tonight. We'd have been in trouble, I think. So what do we got left, Val?
I think there's new business, endorsing the site plans for 203 Lowell Street and endorsing the subdivision plan for 203 Lowell Street. The applicant submitted all the materials that were required prior to endorsement, so these plans are able to be endorsed. So we just need votes on each one of those.
Okay, take a motion to endorse site plans for 203 Lowell Street, map 48, parcel 73.
So moved.
Moved. Second.
Okay, Angela.
Yes.
Hey, there you go.
Better.
Terry.
Yes.
Rondi.
Yes. However,
Yes.
I'm not in town until the 7th of June.
That's all right. Request to endorse definitive subdivision plans for 203 Lowell Street, map 48, parcel 73. So these both the same or they're both different? What are we doing?
So remember, the subdivision plan is, we called it the fake plan that froze the zoning.
Is that the first or second one?
That's the second one, the subdivision plan. And then the first one, the site plan, is for the actual proposed development.
So do we have to endorse the second one?
I believe so, since they met the conditions. They could subdivide it if they wanted to. So even though we called it a fake plan, it's a real plan, but not intended to be used.
All right. Take a motion to endorse definitive sub plan for the fake plan, 203 Lowell Street.
So moved.
Angela, say second.
Second.
There you go. There you go. Rondi, how do you vote on that? Yes? Nod. Terry, you good?
Yes.
Angela, you good?
Yes.
All right, I'm good too. So,
Okay.
see Matthew's still on there. Do we owe Matthew something? I don't know. See, okay.
I think he's just hanging out.
Oh, okay.
Another announcement for you guys, next meeting will be in person. We'll be in the auditorium, spaced out, and the public will be invited in to attend.
No mask since I'm vaccinated.
Correct. You don't have to wear a mask if you are vaccinated.
Is it legal for me to ask if everyone's vaccinated? Oh, just kidding, just kidding.
And I think that's all we have for tonight.
Cheryl, does that mean you're gonna text me and tell me I gotta come and sign plans?
All of you will have to come in and sign because we have some decisions.
Okay. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks. Meeting's
Night.
adjourned.
Sign it off.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.